Very good morning to all of you present here. I, C. Rama Sharmayan, Chairperson of the Tirunelveli branch of ICI, on behalf of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of ICI, welcome all the participants in today's webcast on Glide Path to CFO. Let me also welcome CA Dr. Anuj Goyal, the Chairman of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, and CA Sri Priya Kumar, Vice Chairperson, Professional Skill Enrichment Committee. And our speaker for the session, CA Srinivasan V, and the event enabler, CA Nikhil R. Kumar, Vice Chairman of our branch, CA Ramakrishnan H, Immediate Past Chairman, and other managing committee members of the branch and all the participants present here. So next, we request our Sri Priya ma'am to address the gathering. And before that, let me give a very brief introduction of the Honorable Senate Council member. She is a Senate Council member for the term 22-25 of the ICI and also served as a CCM during the period 2016 to 19 and in the Southern India Regional Council from 2012 to 15. She is presently the chairperson of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, a very special committee of ICI from this year, and also the vice chair of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee and Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee and members of various non-standing committees of ICI. With this, we welcome to you for the session, ma'am, and for your address now.
Thank you very much, Rema. And on behalf of the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of ICI, I take great pleasure in extending a very, very warm and a very hearty welcome to this webinar that we have on Glide Path to CFO. And our chairman will be joining us during the course of the program because he's busy in another program, and that's Dr. Anuj Goyal for you, CA Dr. Anuj Goyal for you. Also extend a very warm welcome to our speaker this morning, CA V. Srinivasan, who also runs a fractional CFO practice after very successful stints in very large oil companies and in insurance companies. Also extend a very warm welcome to CA Rama Sharma. I guess we're pretty good on diversity today. We are 40% out of 5 on the screen, and that's very encouraging. A very dynamic, very articulate, and a very smart chairman of the Thiruvananthapuram branch, CA Nikhil Kumar, vice chairperson of the Thiruvananthapuram branch, whose performance has been exemplary as secretary, now vice chairman, and we look forward to a lot of chairman action in the next term. Also have with us CA Ramakrishnan sir, a very, very senior member of the profession, very socially inclined member from the Thiruvananthapuram branch, and a past chairperson of the Thiruvananthapuram branch. In terms of a quick introduction to the committee itself, which some of you who are there on this webcast may not know, this committee was developed, or rather created this year, with the sole objective of enabling soft skills for chartered accountants. We ran a survey as soon as this committee was constituted, and it was my and Dr. Anuj's idea. And incidentally, we also happen to be chair and vice chair of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board. I happen to be the chair and he's the vice chair. So we walked up to the president and we said, after the GMCS, which people like me did not even do, and some of us have, there's really no structured program from the institute to enable soft skills for chartered accountants. So we're often the bean counters, we wear gray suits like Ramakrishnan sir, and we drive gray cars, and the mold is always one of being very academic, but not really great on the other skills. Now, what are these other skills? We ran a survey. I'm very happy to let you know that 3,000 participants, chartered accountants, participated in this survey, listing out what skills. We presented a basket of about 25 skills, and we said, where do you think you have the maximum need? Classify as high, medium, low. We got 3,000 to the point where I tracked. And almost everybody, sort of seemed to suggest a high need for about 10, 12 skills. So we said, okay, we only have a year. So we'll focus on these 10, 12 skills. And what were these skills? Networking skills, negotiation skills, branding skills, communication skills, critical thinking skills, design thinking skills, emotional intelligence skills, etc., etc. So once we got this base of information ready, what did we do? We said, okay, now we know what to do. Now, how are we going to do it? We've identified for ourselves 4 modes to do it. One, these webinars. I'm very happy to let you know that we have completed 44,000 man-hours of webinars. I think we've had about 11 webinars and this is the 12th. And second initiative that we launched was something called PSCC 100. We said these webinars are great. Why can't we have smaller focus groups? We've had about 21 sessions, averaging 44 participants till now, and maybe we've had some last week as well. So we've covered 944 individuals in these programs where you have a trainer who does a 1.5-hour focused workshop. Focused workshop could be just on time management. So this is the second mode and it's hugely successful. And thanks to all this to Dr. Sambit Mishra, who's been, kind of managing all this. The third mode that we've done is, and again, we said, look, as a committee, comes back to the same thing. I know my accounting, I know my auditing, I know my taxes, but I really don't know much about soft skills. So the committee decided to engage an expert. And we did. We took one Mr. Shiva who's a guest faculty at IIT Madras to help us build 8 modules of 3 hours each, which will be physical programs to be run in the branches and the regional council. And the fourth we are planning to come up with is a certificate course, a 30-hour, 40-hour course, where we pack all this content in and deliver. And the best part is we're not going to really have only chartered accountants imparting these knowledge sessions. We're doing HR trainers. So what we've done is we've also started a process to empanel trainers. And interviews are going on and we hope to have a robust base. And the last is there are chartered accountants, a good 20-30%, who can deliver these content. So we're also doing faculty development programs to actually teach people how to move away from only accounting related illustrations in these soft skills courses. So for example, if you call me for a communication skill, I will basically always talk about how do you write a letter to a client? How do you draft an engagement letter? But I think what is important is there is a larger universe and your client is part of that universe. It's that change that we seek to bring about. A more empathetic attitude, but not compromising, obviously, on integrity and skepticism, which are at the core of this whole thing. Now, when we did all this, I did get, in fact, Anujji actually got many, many requests from members in industry saying, that's great. See, we work with organizations, some of them are large, and so possibly they have a standardized path of growth and what to know at what stage, etc. But a bulk of a fraternity. So we are about 4,08,000 members, of which 1,50,000 are in practice and 350, the balance, 250 are not in practice, 2,50,000. So it's only maybe 10% of these 2,50,000 that have access to soft skills programs. While they are also welcome to join us on all these sessions, which they have been joining us on, the larger part was how do we enable focused programs on a glide path to CFO? One may ask, why not glide path to CEO? We'll do that as a separate module for senior finance professionals to take them to a CFO level. So it's in that context that while all our webinars have focused on general skills, etc., we thought we should do one where we will also seek your inputs, your questions, etc., on how to design these modules. We're going to have 8-hour modules on glide path to CFO, which will be run physically in the branches and the regional councils for benefit of members in industry primarily. So with these words of introduction, also extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Anuj Goyal, whom I saw on screen. And it's back to Rema for the process to continue. You need to unmute, Rema.
Thank you, Sri Priya ma'am, for the wonderful welcome address. Now, let me move on to introducing our chair of the committee, CA Dr. Anuj Goyal, sir, General Council member for the term 22-25, qualified FCA, FCS, FCMA, MCOM, LLB, PhD, DISA, and DIRM. Besides, he is 6-time CCM since 2004. Chairman, Professional Skills Enrichment Committee, Ethical Standards Board, Convener, Publication and CDS Directorate, Vice Chairman, Sustainability and Reporting Standard Boards, Vice Chair, Taxation Audit Quality Review Board and members of various non-standing committees of ICI. A dynamic General Council member who always with the prime objective to serve the members of ICI at large and always stand for the members of ICI. He has earlier served as chairman of the CIRC of ICI and in other position of the region. And he was the chairman of the Garcia branch of CIRC before joining the ICI Council. So happy to have you here, sir. Hearty welcome to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm really very happy that I am with all of you. We are having the vice chairperson who is leading this committee, Professional Skill Management Committee by example, Sri Priya Kumar ma'am, a very, very big round of applause. And we are having the best to the resource person today, C.S. Srinivasan V, and the event regulars, Rema Sarma and Chairperson Tiruvananthapuram branch, then C.A. Nikhil R. Kumar, Vice Chairperson, and of course C.A. Ramakrishnan H. Managing Committee member, Tiruvananthapuram branch, and all the, of course, Dr. Samit Misra ji, the Secretary of this very, very important PSCC committee, and of course all the members from each and every part of the world. I think more than 2,000 members are live with us, and this is very, very important topic which Sri Priya ma'am has chosen. And I am quite confident that all our honorable members who are in industry will certainly like to see that how they can be CFO of tomorrow, if not today, and we will be certainly helping them in the best possible manner. Friends, in the fast-paced technological and ever-changing world, the goal of most private companies is still profit-making. But being a CFO is not just about crunching numbers or ensuring liquidity. It is much more than that. Before embarking on that journey, it is important to understand more about who a chief financial officer is, what CFO roles and responsibilities are, and what career path you should follow to become a CFO. Friends, the CFO's role has evolved significantly from a number crunching position to a strategic leadership role. This significance within an organization cannot be overstated as they say its financial future. And today, the role of CFO has become broader, and now with financial activities, they need to be involved in strategic decisions, collaborate with different verticals within the company, give inputs in mergers and acquisitions, and more. Friends, the CFO's position is one of the higher ranking positions in a company. Hence, it is important to have a certain kind of experience before this role. The person in that position impacts the overall working of the company, and each step you take in your overall career will help you become a successful CFO. Looking at the versatile and holistic role of the CFO, a lot of companies ensure having a CFO on board to ensure profitability and financial backing for their company goals. I will not be taking you further time as we are very, very eager to hear our learned guest speaker. And today's session will be highlight glide path to CFO. And I will wish all of you happy learning session for all, and namaskar and jindabad, and all the best to all of you. Thank you very much, friends.
Thank you so much, Anuj sir, for your kind and encouraging words. Let me now request our Vice Chairman, C.A. Nikhil R. Kumar, to brief on the objective of the program.
Thank you, Rema. Respected CA Dr. Anuj Goyalji, Chairman PSEC, CA Sri Priya Kumar, Vice Chairperson PSEC, Session Speaker CA Srinivasan V, and other fellow members. Wishing a very good day and a great session. On to the objectives of the program. Becoming a CFO is an accomplishment. It requires extensive knowledge of the financial industry, along with strong business acumen and excellent leadership skills. This webcast will provide a comprehensive overview of the steps necessary to become a CFO, outlining the key qualities, fundamental requirements, and critical skills that are essential for success in this role. In addition, it provides guidance on how to develop the necessary expertise, navigate the job market, and make an effective transition into the CFO role. With the right knowledge and preparations, aspiring CFOs can move confidently into the role. By the end of the session, we expect a CFO 2.0 in the making. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nikhil, for the wonderful intro of the session. Let me now welcome our immediate past chairman, C.A. Ramakrishnan H, to introduce our speaker, C.A. Srinivasan V. Sir, are you there?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Good morning, all. I have great pleasure in introducing the speaker of the day, C.A. Srinivasan. Srinivasan B, a chartered accountant from the 1989 batch, boasts over 35 years of extensive experience in finance and accounts with remarkable 25-year tenure as CFO in large, diversified enterprises. His expertise spans various dimensions of finance.
Sir, I think you have a bandwidth issue. You can go off the video.
Finance, accounting encompassing strategic planning, business intelligence, process improvement, and automation, technology implementation, regulatory compliances, taxation, both direct and indirect, policy advocacy for industry growth and functioning. In his corporate experience, he has collaborated with esteemed board members, showcasing his adeptness in strategic leadership. Over to you, Mr. Srinivasan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a bit muted, but Srinivasan sir, it was a bit, sort of, I thought the voice was not audible. So here's a very hearty welcome to Mr. Srinivasan. And as Mr. Ramakrishnan explained, Srini has extensive knowledge on not just what it is to be a CFO, but also what it means to take to be a CFO. So thank you very much and hearty welcome to you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Shri Priya. Thank you, Mr. Anuj Goyal and Mr. Ramakrishnan and all the office bearers of the Thiruvananthapuram branch. And also to ICIA, Dr. Mishra, all of you who have...
A little louder, Srini.
Yeah. Okay. Is this loud enough? Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I am generally basically loud, but I was trying to be a little bit muted today. So good morning, my colleagues, chartered accountant friends, and the aspiring CFOs. And there may be some CFOs also who are there. Glad to meet all of you through this webcast. And interestingly, what we are now saying is it is about glide path to the CFO. Now, this topic itself is pretty interesting. When I looked at my own career path, I was wondering, did I actually glide to become a CFO, or, what was the path? The path was not necessarily a glide path. I just want you guys to be completely keep that in mind. The path is going to be, it's going to have a lot of difficulties on the path to become a CFO. It has got various implications on that. So just after talking about that, I just thought I will let me just get on with the a little bit of presentation so that it can help me in terms of the topics. Okay. So the first thing is the occurrence of this acronym called CFO, Chief Financial Officer. I think roughly about 30 years ago is when this new term, and it as it happens, it all started in the United States and it took time to come to India. Earlier, if you know, or if you do some research, you will realize that the topmost position was always the head of accounts, the general manager accounts and stuff like that. So the word Chief Finance Officer has occurred about 30 years ago, and it is in the long history of accounting and finance management. 30 years is a very small period, and it's still evolving. It's still not, the evolution is not complete. The evolution is fastly evolving, but it's still evolving, and understand that. So because why is it evolving? Because the underlying business that we are managing is also evolving, and it is fast changing. It's a very dynamic environment where the business climate is really, really fast. It is changing, and therefore the adaptation to that. So one of the, earlier on, I just want to tell you, first thing is the most important skill set is be adaptable. See what exactly is the circumstance, business situation, business environment. And then we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the first and foremost skill actually is about adaptability, because business is changing. But the good thing is, we all have adapted to this, right? I think, Shripriya was saying that we did not attend GMCS. I didn't attend GMCS, but I got to do a lot of communication. And how did we manage to do that communication? Because we picked it up on the job. We looked at the other people who are there, right? We looked around. If you look around, you will find teachers everywhere. So look around you, and then you will find people both willing to teach, as well as even if they are not willing to teach, you can actually imbibe on them and then see. So fantastic, very, very important to understand is that the evolving role, which is very dynamic, the business climate is very dynamic, and therefore the role is still evolving. And then a couple of macroeconomics, right? I think it is very important to understand the macro situation, which is kind of impacting the business climate today. So I want to really talk about easy money. There is a technical term for that. It is called quantitative easing. Basically, it means printing money, right? So starting with 2008, which is called the global financial crisis, America invented this weapon called quantitative easing, and they printed trillions of dollars. So close to about $8 trillion were printed and let into the business. $1 trillion in Indian rupee today is 83 lakh crore. So $8 trillion were printed. I am unable to multiply and tell you what is the number. So that was in 2008. And before they could actually suck some money out, they started doing that. And then 2012-13, they started doing that, and 14-15, they were thinking about it. And then 2020, we were hit by pandemic. So in pandemic, they resorted to what they already knew, and another $8 trillion were printed during pandemic. But the first QE was over a long period of time, probably about 6-7 years time. The second QE, the same $8 trillion was printed and flooded in just 1.5 years time. And imagine when water comes slowly, it is a river. When all of the water comes together, it's flood. And we are flooded with so much of money. And the 2021-22 water, the flood that has come is still not receded. The Fed has still not shrunk its balance sheet. It's still living in that particular level. And it's not just an America's problem, right? If it catches cold in America, India sneezes. So the money has actually moved into India, and that's what you will actually see. One of the reasons why, the recent news of RBI giving such a huge dividend to the government of India of 2 lakh crores, it can kind of look like, how did it happen? It's all happening because the money is flowing into other emerging markets. So easy money, and so much money is getting printed. And then a point which is to remember is about the VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now we will look at each of them, right? Volatility. The volatility is not just the volatility index of the stock markets. Volatility means inability to predict anything. Prices going up, prices coming down. I mean, oil price was about $50-$60 about a few years ago. It went up to $100-$120. It has come back to $80, $90. It is fluctuating in the price. Oil is a major impactor of the prices. And then consumer price index, right? I think I'm talking about globally, right? In India, it is kind of range bound. But if you look at it globally, consumer price index, which is inflation, is going up, it is coming down. There are still some countries like Argentina and Turkey, which are running inflation rate of close to about 80% per annum, 80% per annum, whereas we are somewhere in the region of about 4.5, 5-6%. So this is the volatility, right? Things going up and coming down is called volatility. Uncertainty and ambiguity are kind of same. Uncertainty, you are not very sure. Today, the world politically, geopolitics is in a very uncertain situation, with wars ravaging elsewhere in the Middle East and in the Asian continent somewhere, and somewhere people are preparing to wage a war. It's very uncertain environment geopolitically. Complexity, yes, the situation earlier, the number of factors that we need to consider to make a business plan or to take a decision. Let's say if the factors were 10, today we need to consider factors like close to about 40, 50 or 60 factors we have to consider to take a decision. It's becoming humanly impossible to consider all this complexity, and that's where the advent of artificial intelligence and computer assisted decision making models are coming in. So complexity is increasing and ambiguity. So today you need to take a decision without having data on your hand. You need not, you may like to have all the data with you, everything is available to me, and then I would like to take a decision. Your competitor takes a decision and moves on. So it is very important that you need to be comfortable with ambiguity and ability to take a decision. So this is called the new VUCA world, where it is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and one has to have absolutely be comfortable living in this world. And this is the second most important skill set. How do I decide in ambiguity? How do I decide in complexity? And I will give you some tools for that. Idea is not just to throw problems at you, and we will give you some ideas as well. And then dynamics, right? Startup valuations, IPOs, and SPACs. In US, sometime back, there was something called, what happens in India, you incorporate a company, it grows, makes profit, and then it does IPO. In US, the whole thing is reversed. First, you start with an IPO and then figure out where to go and buy a company. That's called special purpose acquisition companies, SPACs. So in India also, we try to do SPAC. Thankfully, financial innovation, India works a little bit very conservatively, and we didn't let that happen. SPAC was a mayhem on the market. So, but these are all dynamics which is happening. You don't know. Maybe SPACs will come back again, both in US as well as in India, because we are living with a lot of money in the system. System money is still not absorbed. So startup valuations are now being actively discussed, right? Startup valuation doesn't fall within a particular, whatever we read in the textbook is not living within. Even Ashwath Damodaran is called in every time. Please explain me the valuation of this company. Please explain me that valuation of that company, because it is not falling within a particular framework. How to value startups in itself is probably an art. It is more an art than a science, and it is something that it has to be confronted. And then tech revolutions, right? Artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, UPI, and then peer-to-peer lending. We didn't know any of them. I think in the earlier days, it was only secured lending. You do know your customer, you look at the guy, and then you talk to him, and then if you are comfortable, you are lending to him. Now you are lending to someone whom you don't know. There is a centralized repository that does the KYC, and the computer allocates your money to his money. It is called peer-to-peer lending. You know the peer, but you don't know the other peer who has taken your money. And there's quite a lot of peer-to-peer lending companies have come up in India. And then there is a new concept called buy now and pay later. So you can buy now and pay later. It is not like taking credit. It's something different concept. So all these new concepts have come. And UPI has democratized I don't know when I last used cash. And then it results in another thing. The computerized transaction throws so much of number of transactions that comes in. The transaction volume has increased significantly. Earlier, if we are talking, if you want to see some small amount in your bank statement, today you are saying millions of line item in your bank statement. And you need to have a good reconciliation tool, and the tool has to be automatic, or it has to be robotic process automation enabled tool. So all these things are all necessary. Otherwise, we can't even do bank reconciliation. So that's another complexity that is coming in. E-commerce is growing and spreading. We thought e-commerce is only for mobile phones and computers. Today, agricultural commodities, anything that you can consider, even aircraft spare parts, are all going on to e-commerce model. There is nothing that, you may even have, the only thing that's still not available in e-commerce is nuclear warheads. So all of them are available in e-commerce, and it is growing and it is spreading significantly. And this is the most important point where I want to really spend a couple of minutes on this. The cycle times are swiftly reducing. Earlier cycle times used to be a longer. For example, you take a seasonality. Let's take, for example, normally let's take, a metal price, right? Let's take steel or copper or any of those metals, whose price normally goes up and it comes down over a period of time. Now, if the earlier cycles were taking about 5 years, 6 years for the price to go up and come down, now it's all happening in less than a year. So in 5 years, you actually have 5 cycles. Earlier in 5 cycles, you will have only 5 years, you will have only 1 cycle, but now you are having 5 cycles. 1 in 200 year events are happening every decade. Like, for example, I know I am an insurance guy. I work with a lot of actuaries, and I was talking to a few actuaries, and actuaries are saying, how in the world, Srini, I will be able to imagine pricing for flood in Dubai? There is no way I can price. I mean, it is not there in the model only. Forget about 1 in 200 years. We don't even know flood in Dubai is 1 in 200 year event or not. And we don't know when the second flood will occur, right? Now we are having floods in literally every city, and it seems to be attacking cities. So this is a model that, we need to be prepared to attack. And like, for example, people talked about pandemic came, and then now they are all talking of another super event can hit you at any point of time. And that's a very important thing to understand. It's not just the big events. It's also the smaller events are going really very, very fast. And then supply chain disruption is becoming very common. Countries which were manufacturing, they are no longer manufacturing that, or they are no longer preferred for manufacturing it. Supply chains are shifting to India. So that's a great advantage for us. Supply chain disruption is, suddenly you all know that you couldn't book your favorite car for 3 years time or 2 years time or maybe 1 year's time, depending upon what car you are buying, because you are being told that a small chip inside the car. You thought that car is made of iron and steel, but car is the biggest computer that we are all having now. And because the chip is not there, car could not be produced for 2 years, 3 years time. So supply chain disruptions are becoming very, very common. Sustainability is becoming critical. And, Sripriya and both Mr. Goyal, both of them talked about sustainability reporting. Sustainability reporting is at the end of the chain. The beginning of the chain is actually doing things about sustainable, because we have finite resources in this planet. And if we don't utilize these resources properly and without, proper judicially, we are not going to leave anything to the next generation. Let's understand one thing, that human beings, as we are standing on the shoulders of our previous generation. And it is also very important, what are we going to leave it to the next generation? So if we run things sustainably, then we will leave a lot of things for the next generation. So sustainability is becoming very, very important, and sustainability reporting is becoming very important. Today, the CFO is being asked only questions on sustainability. How sustainable is your operation? So CFO ends up measuring everything that is happening in his company, including how much of carbon footprint with your employees traveling to the office and going back home. So these kind of questions are getting asked in investor conferences. So sustainability is becoming very critical. And let's also understand the current crop of CFO and CFO ready, they passed out 20-25 years ago. And it's the new guys. I presume quite a lot of the guys who are attending today, they are the young guys. They are looking to become a CFO. And you guys will become CFO in the next 2, 3, 5 years time. And then you will replace this current crop of CFOs. There is significant demand in the market for CFO material. And the current crop which is servicing this is produced long ago. But the new crop, which can only deal with the new situation, is still some distance away. So we are dealing with a little bit of a supply-demand mismatch also here. So, but very, very important for you to understand this macroeconomic situation, which is going to have impact. I'm not dealing with any macroeconomics that is not having impact for chartered accountants. These are all the factors that every chartered accountant and every person who is aspiring to become a CFO has to consider in his mind. Okay, I hope you have taken notes of this. I'll move on to the next slide. And then, we have seen the macro, and then people talked about skill sets. And then, Sripriya kind of listed down quite a lot of skill sets. And I can tell you, none of them is talking about you got to be a numbers person. None of them. Negotiation skills, branding skills, communication skills, and so many other skills are being talked about. Design thinking, critical thinking, emotional quotient. I noted down some of them because I presume the report is available to you. None of the reports are saying that number skills is required, because it is presumed. The certification of a chartered accountant is one of the biggest affirmation by such a reputed body that of ICAI to tell you that you are a super guy in number skills. So nobody is looking for you to be a number skill. So don't be under any wrong conception that you are a chartered accountant, now you are entitled to become a CFO. No, you are a chartered accountant, you are entitled to deal with numbers. That's all. So number skill is the last skill set. Now you need to have whole load of, you are entering the uncertain world, VUCA world, where so many skill sets that you have not even heard of are being asked and expected of you. Not just expected of you, it is demanded of you. So number skill is the last in the list. Some of the first things that I thought it is very important, which Sri Priya did not list out in the survey. The first and foremost thing is that of storytelling. What is storytelling? I mean, everybody would have talked about storytelling, right? I think storytelling is not, all of us, each of us would have grown up with bedtime stories, right? Narrated to us by our grandma, grandpa, or by our parents also sometimes. And today, I see some of the parents are just simply switching on their smartphone, say that please narrate 5 bedtime stories to the children, and they are going and seeing their own OTT serials. But grandma and grandpa is replaced by a smartphone. But you could have seen the storytelling, and the story always starts with, there was a king or something, the story is about either slaying the dragon or winning the princess, right? These are the two broad stories that we have got. The stories are normally narrated, and then, there is, and then it ends saying that, thereafter they lived happily. So, and there is always struggle in between. So the story has got those 3 or 4 components. So setting the stage and creating some difficulty for the guy to achieve, and then narrating exactly what he did, and finally the happy ending. What is very important here is the connect it establishes with the storyteller is trying to connect with the hearer. Our stories are essentially told to ensure that we sleep well, but the corporate storytelling is completely the opposite. We are now, the corporate storytelling is to ensure that the other person is awake and he is listening to you with attent, and you are able to communicate your story. So while you can pick up some of the techniques from your grandfather, grandmother, but please remember, you don't want the guy who is listening to your story to sleep. You want him to be awake. You want him to be fully listening to you. So the word is listen, right? So listening happens when there is a connect. You are empathetically, you are connecting. And I was listening to one of the Indian origin guy. Is a celebrated lawyer in the US. There is a TED talk that he has given about how to win any argument. In fact, some of the principles that he has given can also be taken to talk about any discussion. In fact, for every CFO, it is also an important TED talk. You might Google that and you can actually listen to him. Neil Katyal is an Indian origin guy based in US. He was the Solicitor General for US. And he talks about how he won. And one of the most celebrated cases that he handled was he got pardoned for the driver of the car of Osama bin Laden. Entire US wanted to kill him, but he spoke to the Supreme Court and he got that. He narrated how he actually got that thing happen. And it is a very important thing that one of the things that he says is about empathy. Everything, whenever you go again and again, all communication skill, negotiation skill, branding, discussion, critical thinking, emotional quotient, everything will come back to the same thing called empathy. And I will also talk about a little bit on empathy little bit later. But empathy basically means I am connecting with you. Now, the connection is not a physical connection. It has to be a broad, mental connection. It has to be a heart-to-heart connection. And then if you tell a story, the story actually, it goes. Like, for example, the CFO evaluates the numbers and trends. Is he seeing a trend there? Is he seeing a pattern there? One of the most important skill sets before the art of storytelling is called pattern recognition. So now you should be able to look at the data that is coming at you, so much of trends which are coming, you should be able to do what is called pattern recognition. As a child, you might have played this game in the newspaper in the days when I was a child. they will print, they will write numbers 1 to 100. They will ask you to use a pencil and then join the numbers and see what is coming up. Sometime it will be a dog's figure, sometime it will be a lion's figure, some wild animal, some bird, something like that will come. The question is, let us assume that there are 100 numbers, so that when you finish the 100 number, you know it is a lion. But what I am asking you is, at what number you are able to figure out that it is a lion? Are you able to figure it out even before you take your pencil? Are you able to figure out it is a lion? Then you are a super duper. And number 10, are you able to figure it out? Number 20, you are able to figure it out. So that is called pattern recognition. That's exactly what you have to apply to the corporate. So the numbers tell you a story. There is a story that is hidden behind every number. So are you able to take out those stories? Are you able to see the pattern before anybody else sees? And are you able to consistently see the pattern? And then are you able to kind of communicate and tell these guys, right? Like, for example, I can tell you, I saw in a company which has got, which has got multiple SKUs, multiple products that it has got. And then there was one product in one geography was always selling more. And then we realized that, look, I think maybe we can go on, we can figure it out what exactly is the reason this product in this geography is selling more. And then it became a flagship product, and then they actually ended up demerging the company with just that one product, and they created a new company, and then they listed it. It went on to Blockbuster listing as well. So these are all the trends. Can you actually imagine, and then can you actually make it into more economic reality? So storytelling is seeing the trends, and seeing trends before anybody else is coming. Pattern recognition, are you able to see the pattern that is coming in? And binding the visuals and insights, right? So a picture tells 1,000 words. That's what they say. Now, if you are trying to tell a story, you got to have really binding visuals. That is very important. A binding visual saves you time, a lot of time, and it tells you about the picture. It's really very important to understand that. And then the second most important skill set, according to me, is being custodian of values. Custodian of the value of the company. It's not necessarily valuation. Let's understand. The value and the valuation is very different. Value is what is the real value of the company. Valuation is what somebody else is trying to use. So the value could probably be intrinsic. The value could probably be, as a young boy, when I first went to Paris into Louvre Museum, everybody wanted to go and see the famous Mona Lisa painting. And when I went and stood in front of the painting, anticlimax, I was wondering, why did I struggle so much, stood in such a long queue to come and see this painting? I'm not able to appreciate that. So there is value in that painting. That's why so many people for centuries together. But valuation is what I'm thinking in front of the building, right? So why did I come? So this is the difference between value and valuation. I am saying the CFO is the custodian of the value. And his job is to reduce the gap between the value and the valuation. As long as he is able to take the people who are valuing closer to the real value, he has done a good job. So that's the stuff. So he should really look for the value pools. Where are the values which are there? And he needs to really look for that. And he needs to really work on finding out those value pools. It is quite possible. One of the things that all of us as a CFO will always stumble upon is that the value pools are not going to reveal itself to you, and it is going to always remain in blind spots. So so how do you actually take out the value pool? So if if any of you want to really understand this, please attend any of the analyst calls done by some leading CFOs, and they explain the value pools to the analysts. Analysts are the valuation guys. The CFO is the value guy, and he is trying to bridge the gap between the valuers and the valuation. And he is trying to tell you that, look, here is where I am seeing a pool of value. Here is where I am seeing a pool of value. These are the ways how I am going to realize this value. Please understand and start giving me valuation today itself on that. So searching for the value pools and bridging that gap. Once again, it comes down to communication. but it's more, I don't want to just broad brush it saying communication. Communicating what? Communicating what is your conviction, communicating what is your discovery to the guy, because you are closer to the war zone, you are closer to the action, you are closer to the field. Just like if I have to use some Bhagavad Gita number, you are the Kshetrajna. You know the Kshetra, which is the knower of the field and the field, right? That's what Lord Krishna says. You are the Kshetrajna, you know this. But you have to explain this to the other guy, that this is my field, this is the value. So you got to understand where is he coming from. You got to understand what are his gaps, and you need to actually slowly and gradually bridge that gap. And that's really, really important. And this is the single most important job of the CFO, is to actually be the value protector. So the steps are as follows. First is to find out the values, look at the value pools and get convinced yourself, and then start convincing, and then bridge the gap, narrow the gap between what you have actually seen and what other people are seeing of the story. And this is all into the future, right? So far, as you have seen, the job of the accountant, general manager account, chief of accounts in the past, 20 years, 30 years ago, was heavily in the past, heavily in the numbers, heavily in the historical data. But the job of the CFO is looking into the past and projecting himself into the future, and then bridging the gap and taking people more and more closer to the vision and action, and also infusing trust and confidence on the guy to say that, look, this guy is seeing the value, he is explaining me to this, and I will be able to trust him because we will be able to get there. This is the single most trait that is required by the CFOs. And if you want to have live training, you should attend all these, because I think most of the calls that the CFOs do, they are public calls, and it's people should be able to log in. You should be able to get it's a webcast webinar. You may not be able to ask questions, but you may be able to actually see how other people are asking questions, how the CFOs are responding. It's a very, very important skill set. And then since I have given you the two broad ones, storytelling, custodian of values, and then where the storytelling, custodian of value, they actually dovetail into both. So now I will go into a little bit of some of the smaller, but last but not least, more important skill sets that is needed. Working in broad and diverse functions help. Don't just limit yourself to working within finance. In fact, the more you try to go outside finance, you will find actually the value pools and the ability to tell stories. So always try to be part of a cross-functional team which is working on a project, and get yourself, if you are a CFO aspirant, right? I'm getting back to the glide path of the CFO. If you want to really glide path, you need to be outside the finance function. You need to be comfortable with outside of the finance function. If there is a cross-functional team which is working on solving some problems of the company, you need to lobby and get yourself a slot in that cross-functional team. So the more you work with broad cross-functional team, the more you work with functions outside the finance, you are really getting an excellent, fantastic skill set that you will acquire for being a CFO. And yes, this is the point that I mentioned. Where possible, switch outside finance and take a stint. And remember to come back to finance, okay? Don't just, there are sometimes you could become someone outside as well, but it is very important to come back to finance. Mr. Ramakrishnan sir, are you saying something? I can see you saying something, but yeah, okay, yeah. And then the continuing education, webinar, certification, etc. I mean, it's such an amazing institute. I mean, Institute of Chartered Accountants provides you how many webinars and certification. You can imagine a topic, the webinars are there. I mean, and certifications are there. So many certifications are available from the Institute of Chartered Accountants. I think, if we globally benchmark ICAI with any other such professional development institute anywhere, ICAI will be on top. It will, and the gap between ICAI and any other institute globally will be miles apart. And it's such a fantastic institution, and it is all free. And most of the webinars are free, and you're not even charged. You just have to spend your time. And it is very, very important. And webinars are easy, right? You just wear your headphone, even if you are traveling, even if you are in a bus, you can actually hear. Podcasts are there, certifications are there. I mean, nowadays technology has made it enabled for you that you can actually hear anytime. You can you can pay your attention and you can actually learn. Continuing education is a very important thing. If you are not going to continue to educate yourself, and then forget about gliding to the CFO, it's going to be extremely difficult to become a CFO. And I think, one of the first foremost skills that Sri Priya talked about was for networking skills. Now, I have talked about networking, and I have done a webinar, and I have done a program on networking, and it is there on my website. But there are more. I can only tell you one thing. I am a product of networking. I have only learned to do networking in the last 10 years or so. But I would say I am existing today in my position currently because of networking. And I can tell you it's such an important one in 21st century. If you are going to be a successful professional, you have to be a networking. It's very important how many connections that you have got in LinkedIn, how good is your profile, and how you are engaging your constituency. Don't just think constituency is only for politicians. If you have got 10,000 followers, they are your constituency. How are you engaging them is very important. And what is the feedback that they are giving is all very important. So networking is not just having connections and remaining dormant. Okay. Networking is two-way traffic. Listening to what your network says and imbibing it and absorbing, and you saying something to your network. It's a give and get. In the neural network, actually, if you see in the neural network, electrons pass, it goes this way and it comes this way. And where it goes, the two-way traffic, it's a different nervous system that carries the two-way traffic, because the other nervous system, central nervous system, sends it one way, cranial nervous system sends it two ways. So you got to become a cranial nervous system networking. So if you are networking like that, you will become a lot more powerful. Then everybody is teaching you. If you have got 10,000 connections in LinkedIn, then 10,000 people are trying to teach you something. Listen to them. And it's all micro, macro, small bits which is coming in. But networking is about learning and contributing. So it's really very, very important to do networking. So another point about networking, right? I want to tell you that ask always your question. Please attend in-person networking events. Please attend and go to such networking event where you don't know anybody. 99% of the time we would like to go. Before going to an event, we will call him, "Arey bhai, aap bhi aa rahe kya? Aap bhi aa rahe kya?" You want to see your known people in a networking. That's not networking. That is chattering. Time pass, what we call in Bombay, right? So, when you are going in a train, you want to be with the people whom you know, and then you want to keep chatting. So it's not networking. Networking is about networking with people whom you don't know. So try to go to events. This is one tip I want to give you. The tip that I'm giving you is go to such events where you don't know anybody, and then come out with at least 10 connections, right? That's how you will actually hone and fine-tune your networking skills. And build a strong network of professionals. So within networking can be very broad, right? Professionals, non-professionals, everybody else in the society could be part of the networking. But build a very strong network of professionals within and outside organization. You don't know when you will need them. Recommendations are very important, and people should talk about you and they should know about you. Testimonials are very important. So within and outside the organization, you should have a lot more professional connection, and that's really very important. And then this is one thing. This is freely available I will also kind of recommend to ICAI that I don't know, maybe it is already there because ICAI has covered everything. If it is offering mentorship from experienced CFOs, so CFOs could be willing to mentor some other. I mean, I mentor quite a lot of young CFO aspirants who want to glide to become a CFO. So now you can seek mentorship from experienced CFOs. More often than not, you get significant value because someone who has learned with 20-25 years, who is already there, he can make you jump at least 5-6 years of your time. And and this is one other skill set where I want to really spend some time. As the finance professional, you have an occupational hazard, which is in the organization, you are called the corporate consciousness lies within the finance team. And therefore, what? More often than not, if someone has to say no, the no will actually be from the finance department, right? Because if there will always be proposal, there will always be initiative, there will always be new ideas to spend money, new investments and stuff like that. It will all will come to you as the CFO for evaluation, and you will have to say, sometimes you will have to say no. Lot of initiatives you will have to say no. How do you actually say no? How do you actually disagree and still remain a likable person in the organization? See, in India, what happens, not only in India, I think globally it happens between human beings. If you disagree with me, there are two things. There is me and there is my thought. The question that you need to ask is, are you disagreeing with my thought or you are disagreeing with me? It is impossible that you are disagreeing with me. You are actually disagreeing with my thought. Why? Because I am the thinker of my thought. The point that I am trying to tell you is, if I am the guy who thought and brought this thought, I can actually change my thought also and have another thought. So I am not my thought. Therefore, when you are disagreeing with me, most of the time we always say, I disagree with you. No, it's completely wrong. I disagree with you now if you say that. So don't say I disagree with you. I disagree with your thought. It's a very, very big differential. It's a bit of philosophy, but life is all about philosophy, right? I think philosophy is what is being taught to you in a different form. It's called chartered accountancy, but it's all about philosophy. So you would disagree, but at the same time, remember, as the CFO, you cannot become a disliked person. So what happens is, because I am disagreeing with you or because he is disagreeing with me, people tend to think that he is the guy who is disagreeing. Therefore, if he is disagreeing, why should I like him? This question will come. So if you are disagreeing, you run the greatest risk of being disliked. So now you need to stay clear. How do I disagree and still remain like? So I have recorded a YouTube video and I have put that in my YouTube channel. You guys can see that. But there are quite a lot of other books. Beautiful books have come from Harvard saying, how do you actually disagree and still remain likable? It's a very, very interesting topic. But you need to find out your own technique, how to do that. And be aware of what leads to what. Disagreement leads to dislike or dislike leads to disagreement. If there is a significant dislike, so try to differentiate between these two things. What is disagreement and dislike? And it is really very important. I think, wow, I think I got some positive feedback, looks like. And then there are, I will list two other skill sets, which is, are rather qualitative attributes as very, very important for a CFO. One is curiosity and second thing is resilience. Actually, without resilience, you can't really be very curious. Curious is about doing things new, doing things where you are uncomfortable with. Like, for example, 2012, right, when I was the CFO for Bharti AXA Life, I decided to come out after 25 years of corporate working. I decided to come out and start CFO Bridge. So the one, it is a very uncomfortable thing, right? You are leaving behind your corporate career. You are leaving behind the what I call as the SMS, right? The SMS means every month end you get this SMS that your salary is credited. You leave the comfort of the SMS and you are now seeking to be an entrepreneur on your own. That is curiosity. You want to figure out what exactly it is. Once you become an entrepreneur, you get SMS every day, right? It's not just, you don't need to wait for the SMS once a month. So but there is a gap until you get there. There is a gap that you need to really traverse. And it is very, very important between curiosity. Therefore, curiosity is what makes one of the best CFOs. You will have to try new things. Then what you will realize, because you are trying new things, you may not really succeed. You may actually fail. So, but if you fail, for example, resilience is the bounce back. How quickly you bounce back to normalcy. So failure is what? Failure is the other side of success, right? Success and failure are two sides of the same coin. A lot of people have talked about it. I'm not going to talk about it. But I'm telling you, resilience is more important, because resilience will lead you to more curiosity. Curiosity will lead into more resilience, and you will become a fantastic CFO. So curiosity is always doing new things. And you know, if you are planning your summer vacation, go to a place where nobody has gone. There is a story, there is a poem, right? The road less traveled. There was, you know, I was walking in the forest. I saw two paths. There was a path which everybody walked. There was a path where less number of people have walked. I took the second path and I walked the path where less number of people. It made all the difference. That's what the poem broadly says. Read that poem. The road less traveled is not a dangerous road. I can tell you, is not something that is. So what? Even if it is dangerous, you will be able to actually encounter that. So take everything as it comes, and you know, you can't sit here and then nobody plans for danger. You know, I have worked out hundreds of millions of, not million, hundreds of plans actually, but I have never planned for a dangerous event in the business plan, right? Because danger happens on its own, 1 in 200 year event. So what is very important is curiosity and resilience are very important. They feed each other, and then they make you a they help you to glide to become a CFO. And then remember, this is a lesson that I heard from a very learned professor from one of the US universities. There is something called 10-10-10 rule. Now let me sip a little bit of tea and I will tell you what it is. There is a 10-10-10 rule. Now, what it says is basically something like that. It's a very fantastic thing. The first 10 years of your career as a chartered accountant, as you are joining, the first 10 years of your career, you need to use your limbs more. Basically, you need to work hard. That's what it means. Okay, parts. It's all this story is given with reference to parts of the body. So you need to use your limbs more. You need to use your feet and hand more. So in the first 10 years, as a boss, what am I looking at? I'm looking at, acha, this guy works really hard, right? I look at him. So normally in the first 10 years, you impress your boss, and if you want to glide to become a CFO in the first 10 years, you need to seriously work hard. You should not be looking at your watch and your work-life balance. I mean, you know, honestly, work-life balance, we can talk about it separately. I don't believe in work-life balance, because why? Because I don't believe that work and life are two different things. That's why I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe that I'm always balanced. And then even when I work hard, I really enjoy, right? I really enjoy what I'm doing. Then I'm not really looking at another balance to something else. You need to balance only when you go out of balance. When you're always in balance, you don't need to worry about it. So first 10 years, really, guys, work very hard. Use your limbs. Put up everything else and spend time in the office and learn multiple skill sets. Attend all webinars and you know, certifications. Do everything else in the first 10 years. It's using your limbs. Second 10 year is, it doesn't mean that you don't use your brain in the first 10 year. Okay, it's not mutually exclusive. It's actually cumulative. The second 10 years, the more important element to use is your brain. So you have worked hard for first 10 years time. You got all your promotion. Now you are your financial controller. Now you are in your second 10 year, you are going to work as the controller. Maybe in the new millennium, it may not be necessarily be 10-10, maybe, you know, 6-6, something like that, because you are not going to wait for 30 years to become a CFO. You want to glide to become a CFO. Probably 15 years is thing. Maybe you can save it by 5-5-5 or 6-6-7-7, depending upon where you are, what you're doing, right? So it's just a rule, thumb rule. So you need to use your brain. You need to really work hard, and you need to really squeeze your brain to find answers, solutions. Is being, you know, Shipriya talked about critical thinking, design thinking. These are all skill sets that will enable you to be solution oriented. Most of the time, when I was growing up, my boss used to ask me this question. He will tell me, Srini, would you want to be part of the problem or you want to be part of the solution? You want to be part of the solution. If you want to be part of the solution, you need to squeeze your brains and apply your brain and find the right answers to the problems that are confronting the company. So first 10 years, work hard, maybe you create problem. Second 10 years, your job is to solve all the problems. Use your brain, and then that's the middle stage of your company, when now you are appearing to be gliding towards the CFO. Chalo, abhi aap CFO ho gaya. Then what do you need to do? All that I am telling you, having been a CFO, once you have actually become a CFO, you don't need to lose your limbs, because there is a team which is already sitting there, which is wanting to use the limbs. There is another team which is there, which is using its brain. You are the supplier of the most important thing that is absent in the corporate boardroom, which is heart. You have to use the most important thing, which is heart. That is where the empathy that is coming from. Heart to heart connection. Understand the other person's view and talk to them and understand them and use your heart. I'm not talking about sympathy here. I'm talking empathy. There are two different things, right? So if you are able to understand the other person's perspective, are we being heartful, in taking a decision? Is that good thing for the environment? Is that the good thing for the society? Is that a good thing for what I'm doing? All those things are all really important to understand. So this 10-10-10 rule, during my days, it was 10-10-10. But I became a CFO in 15 years time. So I'm sure you will glide to path also. So you can use that. So with that, I just will spend a little bit of time on CFO as an architect. I'm planning to wrap up in about 10-15 minutes time max, because I will share with you some of my personal. So I want you to look at 2 minutes to look at an architect, right? If you most of you would have done, if you bought a new house, you would have done interior decoration. What is the job of the architect? The architect comes before you moved into your house. The architect is the one who has conceived how your house will be. First person who lived in the house is actually the architect. And then the masons make it, and then you go and live in the house later. So that's what the CFO is. CFO looks at the plane. If you have seen the movie Inception, the most important guy who is needed in Inception movie is an architect, right? He's the guy who weaves the dreams, who has to be identifying value and the growth drivers, understanding the operating cost structure, visualizing that. I mean, this is a little bit academic, allocating resources, but I want you to, the last point is where I really want you to spend some time, understanding the flow of cash, traffic intensity, velocity, and traffic jams. We normally say cash as a flow. Cash is also a liquid asset. So cash is expected to flow. But any liquid asset, when it flows, it naturally creates what is called two problems: leakages and blockages. Blockages and leakages first. Blockage comes first. So where there is chronic blockage, it results in leakages. You can imagine the plumbing system in your building. This is how exactly it happens. So your job, chief financial officer, is also to be the chief plumber. You need to ensure that the money in your company moves without any hindrance. It is a free flow. That is why there is also another indicator of corporate efficiency called free cash flow generation. Free cash flow is nothing but kitna paisa banaya, kitna speed se wo ghum raha hai, and is there any blockages and leakages. That's what is very important. So what is really very important is for you to understand that what is the speed of your money, what is the velocity. I mean, you all have read the ratio analysis. You would have realized that working capital turnover ratio and fixed asset turnover ratio has got a positive correlation to return on equity. So therefore, the faster you turn around your money, faster you rotate the money within your company, the faster the money rotates, right? Assuming that there are 5 of you are friends, assuming that each of you have got 100 rupees in your pocket, but all of you are equal at the moment because you have got 100 rupees in your pocket. But all 5 of you are going to spend the 100 rupees in 5 different ways, or probably 10 different ways. Please understand. Therefore, every company's money, the speed of the cycle is very, very different. And the job of the CFO is to ensure that the cycle is made faster and cycle is made smoother. That's what is really very important. That is the job of CFO as an architect. As an architect, you need to design your pipeline in such a way that the pipelines have less number of joints, the pipelines are smooth, water liquidity can always run very effectively. And then you have to talk, right? Data-driven decision architecture, understand how decisions are taken, and then there is when you are talking about the data to your constituency, you also need to understand that you have got actually 3 tools. As the CFO, you always can crack the whip, right? You have control. But do you want to use control all the time, or you want to use influence and persuasion? Because now, please understand, you are a CFO. The biggest organ that you need to really work is your heart, not your limbs or your brain. So now that you have got a heart, you understood the importance of that, you will not be a control freak. You will be an influencer and you will be a persuader. You will spend, because influencing and persuasion is hard work. It requires a lot of time for you to invest. You need to invest a lot of time. And by investing that much amount of time, you are creating lasting network, you are creating lasting relationships, and you are putting your heart to the best use, and it will result in lasting result it will create, because influence and persuasion are more important. I mean, you can do a lot more understanding of influence. There is a Harvard book on control, influence, and persuasion. It's a Harvard, it's available in Amazon. And I would suggest that every CFO should buy that. Then you will understand what is the difference between control, influence, and persuasion, and you will do more of influence and persuasion and less of control. You can actually easily say no, and the other guy will take it as an answer, because ex officio, you have the right to say no. But you might not have created a good network, good friendship, and you might not have got a good openly talking guy, so that you can go and find out the value pools tomorrow. So influence and persuasion are really, really very important tools. And and then CFO also is as a catalyst, right? What is a catalyst? I mean, those of you who have done a little bit of chemistry will know. In chemical reaction, catalyst is a chemical stuff. It does not undergo any change on its own, but it ensures that the reaction happens faster. That is why it is called catalyst. You can actually Google and find out what is the meaning of catalyst if you are not a science graduate. Catalyst means you don't undergo any change, but you ensure that the process is happening faster. That is a very important aspect of a CFO. And you have all the time, you have 10 years, 12 years to practice before you actually become a CFO. If you imagine yourself as a catalyst, how I don't get impacted, how I ensure that the operations are moving faster is really very important. That in itself will be a catalyst for you to become a CFO faster. A glide a path will get opened up, and I have given some tools here how you can actually do that. Continuous improvement initiative, aligning finance goal, a little bit of academic stuff, but remember this word catalyst. So remember storyteller, remember architect, remember catalyst, remember plumber. These are all the important qualities that you should have. I'm trying to tell you a story so that you will remember yourself, not as a CFO, because just reiterating to you, number skill is the last skill to become a CFO. And nobody looks for you because it is already given to you. Certification hai, you are a chartered accountant, you are a number expert. Nobody is going to ask you to prove that skill again. So I will skip this slide. Then I will, in the interest of time, I am going to go into personal learnings to share. What I want to tell you, because I have given you a little bit of, but a lot of what I have told you is all my personal journey. But I want to give you a little bit more tidbits on personal journey and what I actually understood. So it will go a little bit into variety of a diverse subject. First of all, there is something called working capital. And you will realize that the name is only working is only in the name. Working capital is not working. So it requires a lot of effort to make it working. So focus on that. If you want to be an effective CFO, every company, I talked about the working capital turnover ratio. So to make working capital working means it has to work with the best turnover ratio. Your working capital turnover ratio, which is basically let us say your DSO, days sales outstanding. You can look at days sales outstanding at a broader level. Is it nowadays people say you take it for guaranteed Srini or 90 days ki niche to ho hi nahi sakta. So take 90 days. Let's say 90 days, okay, for no argument. If it is 90 days, then that is the average, right? Now I will talk about average also. It's very interesting. 90 days is the average across the company. And if you look at, if you go into finally, if you analyze that, you will find a lot of customers are less than 90 days, a lot of customers are more than 90 days. Now leave the customers who are less than 90 days. You will always have customers who are paying on time or who are paying ahead of time. I have always seen this. Focus on those customers who are paying, taking more time and slowly bring them down. And that requires a lot of effort. I just gave you one example of how to make working capital working. By constantly working on your areas which are moving slow in terms of the cycle time, you will increase the overall cycle time. If you are increasing the overall cycle time, because working capital turnover ratio is positively correlated to your ROE, return on equity, you will make more money and you will become a more successful CFO. And then, yeah, we talked about cash nominal value, same. I told you that put 100 rupees in 5 different pockets. Nominally, it is all same, 100 rupees in 5 different pockets. But, let's say for, in the lighter vein, right? If there are 300 rupees, 100 rupee in my pocket, 100 rupee in Mr. Ambani's pocket, and another 100 rupee in Mr. Birla's pocket, all the 300 rupees will have different velocity. They will work very, very differently, right? Somebody's, one of the three's money will work faster. I don't want to speculate who it is, but the idea is you have to make your money really work faster. Speed of the money is the name of the game. Okay, that's really very important. CFO is chief plumber. We talked about it. And this is a very interesting thing. You have to understand your balance sheet very, very clearly. And, this may or may not be taught. What I'm saying may be counterintuitive to Institute of Chartered Accountants, what it says in the books also. Asset, unfortunately, becomes a liability, and liability could fortunately become an asset. And it is a possibility. I heard this from none other than Mr. Uday Kotak. He talked about it. Then later on, I came back. Why is he saying that? Then I actually looked at it. Like, for example, let us look at it. Something called a non-performing asset. If it is non-performing, it is hardly an asset. It cannot be an asset and non-performing, right? So if you, let us assume, but the accounting rules will require you to put it in the asset side. You can't change the accounting rules. Debit balance in P&L is an asset side, but it is it's not an asset. It's not producing anything. Asset means it should produce. Asset means it should add to my value. It should add value. Why are we called as human assets, human resources are your biggest assets? Because we are expected to produce value. If we don't produce value, then we are a liability. Same way, a liability need not necessarily be a liability. It could be an asset. For example, there is a creditor who is not asking you for the money. All of you who have done GL scrutiny, you would have realized most of the time you would have experienced that you are writing back some creditor, right? Somebody किसी का पैसा है, पूछता ही नहीं है. So it's a liability, but it is an asset for you. When you write it back, it becomes money, right? So asset can be a liability, liability can be an asset, and vice versa. You need to understand the real nature of your asset. So you have to do a lot of balance sheet scrutiny, and you need to do something like this zero-based budgeting. Question the fundamental nature of this. And what determines an asset to be an asset is, let's say, for example, if all your assets are producing and if they are adding value, let's say if they are adding value at the rate of 10%, for, this may not mean anything, but then once again, you can do an analysis on an average. Some assets will be adding value more than 10%. Some assets will be adding value less than 10%. So you need to question that. Why is this an asset on my balance sheet, but not adding as much value as my other assets are adding? If it is relatively slower, also then it is, to that extent, it is a liability. That's all I'm trying to say. So don't get, I'm not trying to confuse the accounting term. Accounting term will remain an accounting term, but you need to look beyond the accounting terms and ask questions so that you understand the true nature of your balance sheet. And then asset and liability linkages are invisible. You have to learn and master them. For example, I will tell you, There are sources of funds. They are segregated further into long-term funds and short-term funds. But you got assets on the side. Assets are not segregated into long-term assets and short-term assets. But generally, you know, fixed assets are long-term assets, working capital is short-term assets. That's what we know. But in my experience, what I have seen, short-term funds are used to fund long-term assets. Cross linkages problem. And you know, generally it is okay for you to use long-term resources or long-term source of funds to create short-term liability assets. There is no problem on that. You can use shareholders' capital to use for working capital, but it is a very suboptimal use of funds. So you need to really look at it. On your left-hand side, you got all sources, but each source has got an invisible, the tag is not mentioned in your balance sheet. Each source has got a tag. The tag is called cost of capital. Each source has got a cost of capital. There is a coupon rate attached to each of the source. And that source, you need to identify which side of the asset side it is being, used in, deployed in, where is it tied to, and whether this asset produces enough amount of money to service this cost of capital. And this linkage between the liability side and asset side, understanding the what is called in life insurance industry where I work, there is something called asset liability matching. Is a huge exercise. But I don't know how frequently and how critically asset liability matching is done in other enterprises other than life insurance and banking sectors. In my mind, asset liability matching is important in every company. And that's what I am talking about. If you do that, you will become a lot more successful CFO. And then I am moving on to ESG. You got to become the proponent of the G in the ESG. E, a lot of people are taking care of it. Yes, also there are a lot of people who are taking care of it. But there are not many people standing up for the G, the governance in ESG. That I have to stand up for G because that is what is expected of me as the CFO. So, for example, one concept that I have taken up is in terms of whistleblower. So, I said that I am going to encourage whistleblowers. So, in all the boards where I am an independent director and elsewhere where I am talking, I am talking to you now, I am telling you, as the finance community, please encourage whistleblowers. Today, whistleblowers do not come forward to report something wrong. World's major scandals are discovered by whistleblowers. Enron scandal was discovered by a whistleblower. So you can actually go and look for, major scandals. All scandals are actually discovered by whistleblowers. Our job is to protect the identity of the whistleblower. Our job is to ensure that whistleblowers can actually come forward and actually can share. If they see that something wrong is happening in the organization, they should be able to report it. The responsibility is that of the CFO. It's not that you need to do it after you become a CFO. You are gliding path to the CFO. You need to be doing that as you are getting there. So become a champion of the G. It will be very fulfilling to you, and you will actually make lot of value and contribution. So you become, in terms of the governance, the secretarial standards, transparency to the board, and working with the board and taking along the board, and also standing up for all the things, right? Fraud detection, whistleblower, all those things are all, and sexual harassment. All these things are all very important for people, the finance community, to stand up for. It is very important that the CFO stands up for these things. I very, very firmly believe in that. And, so I talked about whistleblower. And then, so also you need to understand there is one other concept which is very, very important for you to understand as if you want to become a CFO. There is a book written by one of the famous author called Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow. So it's a very complex book. Don't worry about it. I am telling you very, very simply. There are two parts of your brain which thinks fast and which thinks slow. There is rational and irrational brain. Like, for example, we always know what is rational, but we do irrational things. For example, let me ask you a question. This is more applicable in Mumbai. I don't know about rest of the country. You know, let us say you are driving, there is an amber light coming. You know what to do. Amber light means you know what to do, what is written in textbook. You need to slow down and stop. This is what you should do. This is what your rational brain tells you. But what you actually do is exactly the opposite. You drive as fast as possible, you get out of there. Arey yaar, mere ko bhagna hai idhar se, yellow light aa gaya. This is the irrational brain. I will give you another example. You are entering a lift. Your rational brain tells you, let the lift get emptied, let everybody come out, and then only you should go. That is the rational brain telling you. What is your irrational brain tells you? You are looking into your smartphone, you are just entering the lift because you want to enter the lift. Because that's what your irrational brain tells you. Nothing wrong about this. But as the CFO, you need to understand the difference between rational and irrational brain. And while in the rest of the team can do their irrational brain, as the CFO, you need to remain a witness to that, and you need to be the whistleblower there. Whistleblower means like the traffic cop blowing the whistle, saying that, guys, we are going irrational here, the decision is not right. So everybody sees the data. Corporate decisions are getting made, okay? 2 people won Nobel Prize writing a book on this. It's called behavioral economics. A CFO has to understand behavioral economics. If there is a certification course that you want to do, please do a certification course in behavioral economics and also do certification course in statistics. I'm also telling you about that in a while. It's very, very important for you to understand. And then I won't bother you about ABC for the CFO, but I will tell you about the very interesting thing. I talked about that you want to be a solution-oriented guy, but now I am going one step further. Don't be just the problem solver. Don't solve the problem and see if you can actually eliminate the problem. This is actually, it's very, very profound. I heard it actually from another CFO. He's a group CFO of a large PE fund. And he told me, Srini, don't solve the problem, eliminate it. Every time it changed me completely. I started thinking, oh, I solved the problem. I should become, you will be a good CFO if you solve the problem. But if you eliminate the problem, you will be a great CFO. I can tell you. Because there is no more problem to be solved. You have eliminated it. Some problem need not necessarily be there. For example, you got a reconciliation issue. Let's say, for example, you found a nice way of reconciling that, or you actually reconciled that and took that. But you have to go to the root cause analysis, RCA, saying why this reconciliation is coming. Can we eliminate that at that level? RCA and eliminate that. If you eliminate that, then you don't need to do the problem next time. It will not even come. So that's what it is. And then learn statistics. Understand standard deviation. Understand the mean, median, average. Average is very mean, pun intended here. Don't use averages. Average is just giving you an example that I have one hand in the fridge and another hand on the stove. On an average, my temperature is normal. This is what it is. Average eliminates extremities. Average is very dangerous to use. So use mean instead. Use heterogeneous averages if you want to. Don't use homogeneous averages. Look for what is homogeneity, what is heterogeneity. You will understand if you do a lot more statistics. So you have to study statistics. Accountant, yes, confirmed. Yeah, you have got number skills. But if you want to see numbers differently, you have to understand statistics. And that will take you to a higher plane. And that will make you a lot more successful CFO. But last but not least, if you are using statistics, then you will know Pareto's principles, 80-20. That 20% of the things produce 80% of the results. So I will tell you a story. If there are 100 people in sales team, you do this, okay, there are only 20 people producing 80% of the sales. 80% of the people are producing only 20%. So let us cut them, all the 80. Then you will have only 20 people left. Now, unfortunately, what will happen is Pareto cannot fail, right? Pareto will produce a new Pareto. The 20 people will become another 20 and 80. So the good people will become actually bad people if you work the Pareto the other way around by cutting the so-called inefficient piece. This is a very wrong advice to do. The right way to approach here is you should work on strengthening the weakest part of your chain. You make the average productivity of the weakest part of the chain higher, better, then you will actually have a better Pareto. Your Pareto will start working for you, will increase the average productivity of the team. So if you want to understand Pareto clearly, you need to study statistics. You need to study behavioral economics. These are the additional 2 skill sets that I am strongly recommending that you you study and read. And I think I will just talk about a little bit about future trends, and I am going to stop. I will take some questions. What is the future coming at, right? Looking into the future. Advanced data analytics, artificial intelligence, large language model. So sometime back we were kind of debating, will the CFO, instead of calling his team, Mr. Ram, what is the sales for the next month? It will disappear. It will say, Alexa, what is my sales for next month? What is the forecast for prediction of the sales for the next month? Alexa, what is the profitability of SKU number 3 in the last 4 months' time? It has become reality. Today, advanced data analytics and artificial intelligence and large language models can eliminate people, can actually replace people, a lot of work that we are doing. But don't get disappointed or dismayed. What is being said is artificial intelligence will not replace you. But those people who are using artificial intelligence will replace people who are not using artificial intelligence. You would have heard that 100 times. So that's all I'm saying. Become comfortable with AI. So now, chartered accountants, itna bol ke, GMCS banaya. Abhi AI ho gaya. Abhi now I am actually appealing to the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Please make a simple AI course for chartered accountants. When they qualify, in addition to GMCS, they should do a course on AI before they become actually eligible to get to the employment. Extremely important today. Without AI, you will never be able to do anything. Right? Cyber security and data privacy. There is a new law that India is enacting called DPDP Act. Cyber security, cyber issues are coming everywhere else, and they are going to have far-reaching consequences on the finance profession. There is something called cyber insurance. I'm actually writing an article on cyber insurance. Cyber insurance, nobody knows how to take. It's a new topic into India. So it's a very interesting thing. Sustainability and ESG reporting are becoming new topics. And global economic shift and geopolitical shifts, right? We are seeing that some of the countries, we are calling them as first world country, second world country, and third world country. But now economics and prosperity is shifting into India. Just imagine, I told you $1 trillion is 83 lakh crore. Now India is about 3.5, 3.8, or even take $4 trillion today. When we become a $5 trillion, we add $1 trillion. 83 lakh crore rupees is going to get added. It is going to result in somebody's bank account. How much is going to come into your bank account and your pocket? Just do you know what you should do to get there? You should think about it, right? India is becoming richer. As it becoming richer, what does it mean to be where I am? How rich am I going to get? These are all things that you should think about it, and you should prepare yourself to benefit from it. So I think with those thoughts, I just want to bring my talk to a conclusion because I have talked enough. I have gone a little bit faster. I know because I wanted to complete a lot of things. Mr. Shambit Mishra requested me to cover a lot of topics in an hour and a half. I did cover a wide variety of things, skill sets, subjects that you need to do, and some personal lessons, and some little bit of academics also. I'm quite happy to answer your questions. And here I will close my direct session. Thank you, sir. Now I'm looking forward to the questions if there are any.
So thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Actually, during the session, we had a couple of questions from the participants. May I read them?
Yeah, please read them.
Yes, sir. So the first question was, what competencies are needed to become a CFO? Is there any practice or knowledge required? How this can be done when one is not having in the current profile?
Yeah. So, absolutely, hard skills and courses like behavioral economics or statistics, you can actually go to learn from other universities or other places. But there is no university to teach you soft skills. You have to learn them. There is a huge difference between teaching and learning. Teaching is where you go and the professor talks to you, is teaching. Learning is you have to manage. You will have to do that hard work. So you have to learn. And I gave some points during my talk. You please look at some role models and ask for mentorship. And then the only way to learn is put yourself into that situation, right? I think you are not going to learn as long as you are choosing to be comfortable with your work. Make yourself uncomfortable, the whole world will open in front of you. You will learn a lot of things. If you are uncomfortable, you will actually start little bit of struggle, little bit of efforts, and that's when you will learn a lot of things. Entire humanity has actually evolved, not while they were comfortable. Humanity has evolved only when they were uncomfortable, right? Like the gene mutation in itself is making the gene an uncomfortable thing. And that's the fundamental principle of gene mutation and therefore human growth. So you have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to seek mentors. You need to go for cross-functional teams. you need to fail a couple of times. Those are the ways how you will learn soft skills. The skills that are needed, I think I have articulated enough. And even Sripriya listed them down. Negotiation skill, networking skills, branding skills, communication skills. Lot of skills are all there. I think it is an institute study, should be available in the institute website. There is no dearth of academic material to tell you what skill sets that you need. But, sometime back, I went to learn Bhagavad Gita from a very learned Guruji in Powai area. He told me one simple truth. He said, Srini, dekho, you want to learn Bhagavad Gita, please understand this one simple thing. Suna mana, lekin kiya to hi jana. So very, very important thing. Suna means you heard. Bhagavad Gita you have heard, everybody recites. Mana to मान लिया बस ये भगवत गीता है, भगवान ने बताया. But only kiya to hi jana. Otherwise it will be a recipe. You have this recipe to make nice sambar. But how the sambar will taste, the recipe will teach you no taste. You have to actually go to the kitchen and you'll have to make it. So a lot of people will give you recipe. My today talking is also a recipe. But आपने सुना, आपने माना भी होगा. But लेकिन जाना कभी किया तो ही जाना. You have to do it. That's the only way of learning. Yes, sir. What is the second question, sir?
So the second question. So in your experience, is there any scope for tax professional to the transition to CFO role? Or does there exist some kind of positive preference to a person working in reporting portfolio?
It's an excellent question, actually. Long back, I was also faced with this dilemma myself. Should I become an expert? Because when I was, transfer pricing was newly introduced. When I I don't know which year they introduced, but it was when I was in the middle of my career. So I was wondering, should I actually become a tax professional or should I remain generalist, and therefore a path to the CFO is easy. But I can tell you it is a little bit of a fallacy that if you are a tax professional, you may not be able to become. What is very important is how much you know your skill sets, your number skill sets, your specialization is actually less than half the story. The more than half the story is from the skill sets. I have seen, in life insurance industry, it's always this kind of, I wouldn't say fight, but it is always the contest between who becomes the CFO. Is it the CA or is it the actuary? Because, it's actually a good fight between them, and it is a healthy fight. But I have seen majority of the time, it is the chartered accountants who win that whole thing. Because, you are overall, your development is overall, you are able to look at a lot of things. The institute gives you a lot more skill sets. It trains you essentially in soft skills. So I think irrespective of the fact whether you are a tax professional or you are a FP&A, financial planning and analysis in the reporting professional, that's not the whole of the story. That's part of the story. Agree with you. But it's not the whole of the story. Even if you are an excellent tax professional, if you have a good interpersonal skills and skill set, you still have the highest chance of becoming the CFO. And I don't think any choosing organization will ignore the soft skills and it will go, because there is a huge organization below you to support you on the number sets. If you need to publish numbers, there are people who are using limbs, there are people who are using their brains. What team hai niche? So the senior, the leader, who is the CFO, is the guy who applies the heart. So whether you are a tax professional or whether you are a statistics professional, like an actuary, as long as your heart is in place, you have a high chance of becoming a CFO.
So may I take the third question now?
Yeah, please.
So, sir, in your session, you were mentioning of the command versus persuasion topic, where the cash must be continued to flow. There should be no blockage to avoid leakage. You have imbibed values in practice. So the participants would like to know in brief the details which you would like to mention.
Okay. Let me take, these are two different questions. One is about control versus persuasion and then influence. And and then second thing is about the liquidity management, where we take it as leakages and blockages. How do we do so that we ensure that the whole thing runs properly? So two different questions. So control and persuasion. Control is where the CFO is able to exercise his powers ex officio. I am the guy who is going to say no to this proposal, therefore I am going to say no. Is a very blunt way of saying it. You have the power to say it. In fact, you not only have the power, you have a duty to say it. So you are not wrong, but you have said it. So in fact, in my corporate career, there was a feedback which was given to me after about 10, 12 or 15, 10, 12 years when I was in the corporate career. Srini, you give excellent solution. I would like to come to you for solution, but I don't like the way you are giving the solution. So, you know, you many times you kind of, you know, I don't like your tone, tenor, the way you are giving the solution. Sometimes I feel very small when I come out of your cabin. So then I realized that is my change. My flip came at the time. I said, wow. I went back and I thought about it. I said, look, okay, so fundamentally I am able to provide solutions, but the tone is very important. Then I changed the tone. So it is about art of persuasion sometimes. It's also about spending more time with the people, explaining them the rationale, why you decide what you decide. And it's also important. It's not just spending time with them on the rationale, but maybe the same idea can still work with certain changes, certain embellishments, certain different way of doing it. Have you thought about it? You know, what you presented to me at this way, it doesn't look to me that is workable, but can you present it differently? And can you deal with him not in such a way that you are the CFO, you are sitting there and he is somebody who is coming to you with a problem. He has come to you for a solution, right? How you are going to give the solution is very important. So you need to understand the difference. So persuasion and influence is influencing the other guy. So you have something in your mind. Let's say, for example, you want to do a particular thing and you believe that it should be done this way. Let's say there is a ExCom, executive committee meeting happening. All senior executives are sitting. You have an idea for sales. Now you can say that idea yourself. The sales guy can say that idea himself. Now it may be your idea. Now who has to implement this idea? It is a sales guy. The sales guy will implement your idea better or his idea better. If he wants that idea, if he thinks that it is his idea, he will implement it better. Now, how will you do that? If you have got a good idea, you don't need to make it saying that, I need credit for this idea. You need to actually go on this idea to him and he should ensure that
Sir?
he actually is able to own that as his idea. That way, what you do is that you have influenced him. Understand? This is one example of influence. So, influence and persuasion are time consuming. Influence and persuasions are long lasting. Influence and persuasion are work of your heart, whereas control is the work of your brain. So, please work with your heart rather than brain. That's on that point. Now, second point is about liquidity management. So, now cash has to, those of you who understand free cash flow is the cash that is generated in the organization before capex and tax payments, right? So that is the free cash flow that you generate in the organization. And so much of money is generated. Let's say at the end of the year, you have generated 100 crores. But that 100 crores of money has come from different pipelines. You visualize your organization, I'm sure all of you would have seen a refinery. In refinery, there are a lot of pipelines running crisscross, and then on top of that, you put crude. On the bottom of that, you get petrol, diesel, aviation, turbine fuel, kerosene, blah, blah, blah. Let's imagine an organization like that. It is a set of pipelines where money is going crisscross, and when money is going crisscross, what happens is some money will go faster, some money will go slower. It is natural. It is the law of the statistics. So the job of the CFO is to take care of those pipelines where money is going slower. Identify such cycles where they say order to cash cycle, record to report cycle, accounts payable cycle, all those cycle, procure to pay cycle, all those cycles are there, right? So if you look at order to cash cycle, you look at every purchase order. And, for example, I'll give you one example. I have seen in a company which makes hundreds of thousands of invoices, and it did not digitize those invoices, send them directly. It never had. It had a practice of printing all those invoices and then putting it into envelopes and sending it physically. Now, no wonder the company had a receivable issue. Its DSO was more than 180. So we changed the whole process. I said, why are you printing it? Now it is 21st century. Just don't print that invoice. Directly send this invoice to those guys. Simple change. The DSO dropped from 180, 190 to 140, 130. Then we worked on 2 or 3 changes. Then we brought down. Right? Systematically, you should work on item by item and reduce the DSO. Now, if you reduce the DSO, you are increasing the speed of the money. That is what you are supposed to do. As the CFO, your job is to look for how fast the money is going about in that refinery pipeline, which is going crisscross in a company, and your job is to ensure that every single cycle money is flowing faster. That's the job of the CFO.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for the detailed interaction. Actually, there are few questions more. I'm going with it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Can you please give more examples on the statistics used as CFO?
Statistics.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I will go back to my use of average and use of mean. Heterogeneous practice. Like for example, there are there is a job of making a budget. What happens is people say, let's say you have 1,000 sales people who are selling your or 1,000 dealers for you. A very simple way of making a business plan is you can't have 1,000 dealer and dealer wise sales. It's very difficult, right? People may not do that. Who are using Excel, they may say the average productivity of the dealer multiplied by 1,000 and then increase the productivity by 10%. You have the number for the next year. It's a very simplistic way of doing a budget. Now you don't do the budget this way because the average productivity, does not bring out the thing. Like for example, of your 1,000 dealers, it is possible that the dealers in the west are behaving differently, dealers in the east are behaving differently, and the dealers who are dealing with SKU number 10 are behaving differently, or product number 10 are behaving differently. And if let us assume that 10 is your flagship product, sells 80%. So you need to analyze what is called, you need to now make the dealers into groups and put more variables. Like, for example, this dealer for this product has got a higher productivity. This dealer for this product has got a lower productivity. Now what you are doing is you are not using average. You are using heterogeneous groups. Now what you are doing is, now, you know, I don't want to end up in a classroom session, but you need to do the little bit of hard work. Go back and find out the difference between average and mean. That's exactly what I mean. Okay. So you need to really start using mean instead of average. Start using heterogeneous groups. Start using groups. So there is another concept called standard deviation. So you need to reduce the gap in the standard deviation. You need to reduce the standard deviation ka kam karna padega. How to reduce the standard deviation? By having heterogeneous group. So standard deviation, use of mean, heterogeneous group, these are the three statistical principles I told you. But I think you can easily figure out. You need to understand the concept of standard deviation. I think standard deviation used to be part of CA curriculum when I studied. Mean, mode, average, they are all part of the CA curriculum also. I'm not sure what is now, but it is very easy to figure it out. You can actually see some simple explanation in Khan Academy or elsewhere. They will tell you. So it is very, very important that your business planning is using more statistical principles rather than non-use of that. That's the point that I meant. Yes, sir.
So this might be a tricky question, but still. How to infuse professional management generally in family managed companies when the companies appointing CFOs are not listening?
Yeah. Look, I can tell you today, CFO Bridge works only with family managed companies. We have got 150 clients. We have 150 family managed companies where our guys are working as CFOs, part-time CFOs. And we have no problem with that. It does not matter whether it is a family managed company or non-family managed company. What matters is what you are saying, what you are doing. Are you connecting with your heart? I told you the most important thing is connecting with the heart. If you are connecting with the heart, if you are empathizing with the owner, if you are empathizing with the owner's pains, if you are empathizing and if you are connecting and relating with the owner's vision, you will become part of the family. The bigger thing is that when you are working in, so I kind of refuse to take this sharp definition of family managed companies versus professionally managed companies. I am telling you, family managed companies need the help of professionals. They are all realizing it. They are coming to you. They need you. You need to orient yourself how to work with family managed companies. That's all. You need to use a little bit of skill set that is needed, right? I think you need to kind of modulate and demodulate and change a little bit and adapt yourself to deal with them. You will be able to deal with them. We have created a fantastic, very successful model, and we deal with a lot of family managed companies where we are part of their family. We are part of their, we are part of the marriage. We are part of the divorce. We are part of family segregation. We are part of the litigation. We are part of the birth. We are part of the death. We are part of the marriage. Everything. It is all possible to be part of that. Just because you are part of the family, you are not going to lose your professionalism. And I am telling you, professionalism and family managed companies are not necessarily two distinct packets. Professionalism is what you behave, what you bring to the table, what are your attributes. So family, 90% of the companies in India are actually family managed companies. Even the large listed companies are family managed companies, right? Most of the wealth is created by family managed companies. So we have to actually learn, as long as we stick to our agenda, what exactly the CFO is supposed to do, and we figure out how to communicate that, you will be a very successful professional working in a family managed company. And I have seen several examples of that.
Right, sir. So the next one, what approach one need to use to become CFO in large organization? large organization hire CA for a specific stream in finance and accounts. Should one see a small or medium organization to start his career as a CFO?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I will share a little bit of personal anecdote. The technique I followed is, right, big position, small organization, small position, big organization, then shift to a small position, big organization. Just you grow your career, but at the same time, keep in mind that when you are shifting from one job to the next job, you are going for a very big jump. Go for a leap, not just a jump. So small job in a big organization is okay. Then next thing is big job in a small organization. Then small job in a big organization, then big job in a big organization. That's how you lead. You need to be smartly planning your career move. How much are you jumping? Are you looking for marginal changes? Or you are able to leaping? If you are able to leap, you will be able to plan. To a large extent, you'll be able to plan your career. Yes, sir.
Right. So the next one. Nowadays, many people on LinkedIn uses a word fractional CFO title while having 8 to 10 years of work experience only, and they provide services to small startup. As you mentioned, it requires at least 15 to 20 years of efforts to become a CFO. So what are the main service required by these startups and small organizations from CFO?
Yeah, look, CFO as a term is not really very hardly, it's not precisely defined. But the first word is more important, chief, right? You don't call everybody a chief. For one person in the society to be called as a chief, there are certain attributes, and I'm not going to lay it down. You know very well. Who would you call as your chief? Let's keep that in mind. And, sometimes experience, number of years does not matter, but many times experience matters. Why experience matters? I will put it to you. Experience matters because experience gives you two distinct advantages. One, you probably have made more number of mistakes. That's why you know what not to do rather than what to do, right? So, because more number of years, you tried more things, you failed more number of times, you have more knowledge. So, experience gives you. And second thing is business cycle. I told you about volatility, right? Going up and down. You have seen more number of cycles. That means you are not bothered about cycle. You say, chalo, ye bhi jayega. Whatever has gone down will go up again. You will have that. So, in order for you to have, this is what is called as wisdom. Now, wisdom comes with number of years of experience. Wisdom cannot be bought. Suna mana kiya ta ki jana. To kiya apne. Have you actually done the job of a CFO to be a CFO? So those are all the things. So fractional CFO is an emerging concept, and we have pioneered that in India. I believe that in 5-10 years time, this will be a major employment booster. So, I'm working with a lot of chartered accountants to create this awareness. And it is also just like practicing CAs. This will become a practicing CFOs. It will become a new avenue, and India needs thousands of fractional CFOs. But you need to be a CFO to be a CFO.
So the next one, can internal audit or risk advisory profile can help for CFO as we are interacting with different departments?
Yeah, absolutely. I told you, even a taxation person can become a CFO. In fact, internal audit person is in a very, a very unfairly advantageous position, because he knows the company like no man's business. Usko malum hai what are the risks of the company, what exactly drives the company, what is going on in the company, everything he knows. So he is in a very advantageous position, and he should think that he is not an internal auditor. He should think that he is a CFO. It's all in the mind. You need to think broad, and you need to focus on sharpen your soft skills, and then you need to create a mentorship, and internal auditor could become a CFO, and probably between the taxation and internal auditor, I will put internal auditor ahead of the taxation guy to become the CFO.
So this is one with reference to the PSU. how can a CA working in PSU use this technique where promotions are time-bound and seniority-bound?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have an answer for that. I think if you are in a framework where skill sets are not important, number of years that you sat on the chair is important. All that I talked in the last 1 hour is not applicable.
Sir, this is the last question. As a CFO, we have a lot of knowledge on compliance, accounting, law, but sometimes that is stopping us from taking risk and expressing our concern to the investors.
See, as they say in the risk management skill, the first lesson in risk management is the biggest risk is not taking risk. So you need to take risks because the business is all about taking risk only. So, but one has to take informed risk. You know, you will have to model it, you will have to think through that, and you know, despite all those things can go wrong. Who would have expected? All insurance companies have gone wrong in Dubai when it flooded in Dubai. So, you know, you will definitely go wrong, but at least they will cover it in the next year. Always take chances, take risk. Nothing wrong in taking risk. Humanity has come to this stage because somebody took risk. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, sir. So, thank you, sir, for addressing the participant queries with such clarity and depth. It really enhanced our understanding. Today, I believe we have clocked more than 1,200 participants, which truly reflects the need of the program and your active deliberation skills coupled with practical knowledge, sir.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Now I request here Ramakrishnan H to provide the summary of the program. Sir, you are on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Becoming a CFO is a challenging and rewarding career path, requiring extensive expertise in finance and accounting, along with strong leadership skills, the ability to identify top talent and build collaborative team, excellent judgment, and the ability to make sound financial decisions. All successful CFOs have strong technical and operational skills and expertise. This webcast provided a platform for aspiring CFOs with the tools necessary to achieve their goals on the path to CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the short and crisp brief up of the program, sir. Now moving to my duty of delivering vote of thanks. Sir, it has been an honor to be part of this wonderful webcast on Glide Path to CFO organized by the PSEC ICAI. On behalf of Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICAI and Thiruvananthapuram branch, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Srinivasan V, for his enlightening session, and CA Dr. Anuj Goyal, Chairman PSEC ICAI, CA Sripriya Kumar, Vice Chairperson PSEC ICAI, for their active guidance. A wide round of applause and thanks to the organizer, Professional Skill Enrichment Committee ICAI, our today's speaker, CA Srinivasan V, and other stakeholders who made this webcast a memorable one. Finally, we would like to thank all of you present here and helping us with this webcast being a grand success. Thank you all.